SpaceX's Starship 38 does the static fire. How does this influence the Flight 11 launch date? SpaceX is breaking physics with its Starship development, puzzling scientists. This shouldn't be possible. A new military mega constellation is being deployed, Venus Aerospace is revolutionizing rocket engines, and Rocket Lab is establishing communications with Mars. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It? Let's dive right in. Starship updates. We are getting closer to Starship Flight 11 faster than ever before. On the last episode, I mentioned that there might be 40 days or fewer between flights 10 and 11, which would set a new record for SpaceX. And as so often at Starbase, it all started with a road closure. On Tuesday, September 16th, SpaceX posted a new closure for the next day. From the production site to the pads was the goal, and Ship 38 was the traveler. One trip from the production site down to the pads is almost precisely 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles long, and many prototypes have taken it in the past. Do you remember March 8, 2019 by any chance? If you do, you are a hardcore Starship fan from the very early days. It was almost 2 months before I started Why, and at the same time, it's the reason why I did it. Starhopper was the first prototype ever to be rolled down Highway 4 to a back then very rudimentary pad. This is what the production site looked like back in March 2019. A large tent, a slab foundation, and a lot of clutter. And on the side, something that the world did not understand at all back then. The launch site really wasn't much more. A dirt mound, a slab foundation, and a very minimalistic tank farm. Besides this beautiful trip down memory lane, this also helps to show how far SpaceX has come in this time. Take a look at how much the production site and the pads have grown since then. A little more than 6 years of development. And unchanged until today, it's exactly the same trip every prototype takes to get from the production site to the pads. Currently, there are 3 reasons why a prototype travels between these 2 sites. It's either for a test, a launch, or in still rare cases, because a prototype has landed again, recovery. In this case, it's for Ship 38's static fire in preparation for Starship Flight 11. Yes! Tuesday night, the ship transport stand was moved to Mega Bay 2 in preparation for Ship 38. And as usual, SpaceX didn't wait around and lifted it onto the stand right away. On Wednesday, the final version 2 prototype ship made its appearance outside of Mega Bay 2 for the first time in 48 days. It quickly made its way towards the highway where the so-called rollout began. Wasting no time, Ship 38 arrived at the launch site 1 hour later, where it assumed the lifting position alongside the chopsticks. Speaking of the OLM, as seen on Lab Padre Space and our own cameras, it received its ship testing modifications immediately after Booster 15 was destacked following its static fire campaign. Talk about a turnaround. With all the modifications complete and ready, Ship 38 was lifted atop the OLM. Just 1 day later, SpaceX closed the road and the tank farm began to spool up. But besides that, we've not seen much yet. It is unclear why SpaceX hasn't performed the full set of tests yet, but it might be related to ground equipment problems or issues with the Raptor 2 engines. If the static fire continues as planned, we should be about 2 weeks away from a launch, which would bring us very close to the October 5th date I predicted in the last episode. If SpaceX encounters a problem and has to redo it, you can add around 2 weeks, which would bring us to October 18th. What do you think? Will Flight 11 still happen in September, or will it take longer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. In any case, we are not far away from Flight 11. 11 flights and no orbit yet. Why does it take SpaceX so long to complete a full flight, including orbit and payload deployment? Before we continue with Starship and solid proof that SpaceX is breaking physics and puzzling scientists, hit the subscribe button to stay informed. Like this video if it brought you value, and become a Y supporter for extra content. Up to 7 picture galleries per week, satellite, helicopter and ground photos and 3D animations, chat with me and gain more insights on the topic you love. Thank you very much. Also, check out raptor-roost.com for launch viewing tickets. Flight 11 is around the corner and there is simply no better spot to watch from. Alright, SpaceX is breaking physics and puzzling scientists. Let's take a look. Remember how I talked about Bill Gerstenmaier on the last episode? If you've not seen that one yet, I highly recommend giving it a go after this one. SpaceX made some significant advancement in its Starship heat shield development. One thing I had no time to mention last time is a very good explainer for the question of why SpaceX is seemingly so slow. Short answer, they are not slow at all. Long answer, it has to do with SpaceX partly moving into territory where no data exists. But aren't we living in the age of AI? Can't SpaceX just ask Grok how to do it? After all, that's almost an in-house product, right? Not really. What SpaceX does on the Starship program is partly new. There is nothing to compare it to. And if there is no real-world example of it, it gets challenging for a computer model. Starship's heat shield or a super heavy booster return are completely new territory. And Gerstenmaier said just that. He briefly mentioned the results of experiments with Starship's Super Heavy booster on Flight 10. The booster splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico just off the coast of the pads after delivering the ship to its trajectory. As we reported right before liftoff, SpaceX used the flight to put the booster through higher stresses as it came back to Earth, guiding the rocket to a water landing in the Gulf instead of returning it to the launch pad for a catch attempt. Whenever you do risky tests, you don't want to attempt a catch. If something goes wrong, you risk everything. Now, here comes the part why I'm mentioning this. He explained that their goal was to examine the angle of attack and the booster's ability to fly itself, thereby assessing SpaceX's potential to return it to the tower in the future. And what they found was that Grok, or a wind tunnel test, doesn't cut it here. SpaceX engineers have found that the booster's performance during descent doesn't match what computer models and wind tunnel tests predicted. When tested on the ground, the booster experiences unstable buffeting as it slows down below the speed of sound. Speaking of unstable buffeting, I have something you might enjoy. Dozens of daily spam phone calls and emails kept annoying me. It was a constant nuisance. Today's episode is sponsored by Incogni, a tool that has proven to be my reliable partner for years now. It takes personal data out of the hands of ruthless data brokers who make a living selling it. And Incogni is ready to protect your data security too. I'm sure that you're longing for data security just like half of all Americans and me too. Incogni has proven to be my faithful partner, ensuring our personal data remains personal. Just the way it's supposed to be. Powerful and incredibly easy. Give it a try. Just sign up and grant Incogni permission to track down the data brokers. It is fully automated. Incogni identifies targets and handles removal requests for you. It even lets you add custom removal requests. Watch it work, knowing your data is actively protected. Spam phone calls and pesky emails become a thing of the past. Join me at incogni.com/Felix to take control of your personal data with Incogni. Use code Felix at the link below to get 60% off an annual plan. This special offer is for you and it can make a huge difference in your daily life. Go to incogni.com/Felix to enjoy personal privacy while supporting Y. Alright, well protected, back to the unstable buffeting on a super heavy booster. Based on these results they got on the ground, they shouldn't be able to perform their maneuver when coming back with a booster. Still, flight tests have shown that they have more stability than what CFD, which stands for Computational Fluid Dynamics, or wind tunnel data, suggested. They ran their computer simulations and wind tunnel tests, but these did not match real-world results. Therefore, a new era of study. Gerstenmaier even took it a step further by asking researchers a question. He posed the big question to the research community. Why are we seeing these differences? We had an incline that it would be there, but we weren't 100% sure. Those new maneuvers worked extremely well, contrary to CFD data and wind tunnel predictions that they wouldn't even work. Gerstenmaier suggested that's a question better directed to universities and government labs. Companies like SpaceX innovate quickly, but once they find a viable solution, they move on to the next project. He said, I get what I call a minimum viable solution. I don't really understand why it works, but somehow it works, so we are going to use it. We are going to monetize it. We're going to make it work. Researchers now have a chance to help SpaceX understand why it works. In examining SpaceX's findings, they might discover an even better approach. Again, this is something the general public has yet to understand. SpaceX is exploring new territory. This has not been covered by research yet. It's not just a bigger rocket. Keep that in mind when you're asking yourself why they've not flown an orbit with Starship yet. Now that we're once again reminded that Starship isn't just another rocket, let's do some inventory work. It's been a long time since we took an in-depth look at Sanchez. Over the span of a few flyovers, we've seen some work around the site. It is time to take a stand and an arm, a booster transport stand, a ship quick disconnect arm, some Star Factory work stands. Sanchez is a bit of a mystery box. Let's start with the undoubtedly cool new booster transport stand. Over the past year, SpaceX has been building new and improved booster transport stands. But these are kind of useless for the new generation of boosters. You know, new aft, new clamps, new almost everything. So SpaceX had to come up with a new booster transport stand clamp design. Thankfully, they are no stranger to new things, as we've already established earlier. Originally, this stand was being built and prepared for the current generation of boosters, but work quickly stopped and shifted to a new generation configuration. Unfortunately, it is extremely difficult to get pictures of this from the ground, so we will have to wait for it to move. Time is key. Moving to the side a little bit, we can see an assortment of work stands. Sadly, we cannot really make any educated guesses on what these are for. Some of them are in a triangle shape, a 9-meter circle, or even a hexagonal shape. The only assumption we can confidently make is that these are for the factory. Block 3 needs all the shapes. Last but certainly not least, we have the ship quick disconnect arm for the brand new Pad 2. This arm is an entire mystery right now. Work has been extremely slow and parts are still missing. Although the main part of the arm is built, it is not yet outfitted, and the extension seen on the active arm is nowhere to be found. As said, Sanchez, located right next to the base, is often a bit of a mystery bag. It's an excellent place to make educated guesses about how Starbase will continue. Do you want to see mind-boggling stuff from the air with your own eyes? Go to redlineheli.com/Felix. $25 off for anyone using the link. The Redline helicopter team is waiting for you. They'll show you the same Starbase views our photographer gets on his Starbase flights. Unforgettable stuff. Now let's head over to the Space Development Agency. US Department of Defense's SDA has launched its initial batch of 21 operational satellites. The SDA was established in 2019 and aims to develop and deploy extensive constellations of small satellites in low Earth orbit for military applications. This first batch of satellites was launched aboard a Falcon 9 from Vandenberg Space Force Base. The launch marked the start of SDA's 10-month Tranche 1 campaign to ultimately deploy over 150 satellites to low Earth orbit. While 126 units will provide data transfer, 28 are dedicated to missile warning and tracking. I already feel safer. In this first batch, all satellites are part of SDA's transport layer, designed to provide secure military communications. They have been designed and delivered by York Space Systems. This Denver-based company had delivered the 21 satellites a month earlier for integration with the launch vehicle. Their deployment shifts the project from the Tranche 0 demo missions of 23 and 24 to operational service capabilities. The next Tranche 1 mission is scheduled for mid-October, featuring a batch of Lockheed Martin-built satellites. Initial regional coverage from the constellation will expand to a broader reach with Tranche 2 launches. These are scheduled to begin in late 2026. However, the program's future beyond Tranche 2 is uncertain, as the Space Force has paused Tranche 3 funding. This pause is pending a study to determine if this approach optimally addresses military data transport requirements. It might be outdated already. Let's move on to Firefly, which received positive news about its Alpha rocket. The FAA has cleared Firefly Aerospace to resume launches following a months-long investigation. It was triggered by the failure of the message in a booster mission in April 2025. Alpha's launch on April 29th began nominally. The two-stage 29.6-meter rocket lifted off from California's Vandenberg Space Force Base and climbed smoothly through its first stage ascent. It was the sixth Alpha mission for Firefly. Trouble struck moments after stage separation, when the rocket's first stage broke apart and subsequently destroyed the second stage's nozzle extension. This led to a drastic reduction of thrust and ultimately to the mission's failure. With the investigation results in, we can examine what caused this mishap. Alpha's steeper ascent angle on this mission, which was necessary for proper payload delivery, intensified the heat buildup from the plume-induced flow separation. A plume-induced what? Such a plume-induced flow separation is an aerodynamic phenomenon that occurs when a rocket's engine exhaust plume disrupts the smooth airflow around the vehicle during flight. This creates dangerous heating and pressure conditions which caused the first stage to rupture just milliseconds after separation. So what can Firefly do to make sure this won't happen again? Fortunately, the fix is straightforward and the modifications have already been implemented. The thermal protection system's thickness was increased and the flight profile was adjusted to a reduced angle of attack during critical phases of the flight. Now that the FAA's approval has been restored, Firefly is preparing for Alpha Flight 7. This mission represents the company's next opportunity to showcase the rocket's advancements as it strives to position Alpha as a strong contender in the small satellite launch sector. From Firefly, we move on to Venus Aerospace, a Texan company waiting to revolutionize rocket engines. Texas is on top of spaceflight right now. Pam Melroy, former NASA Deputy Administrator and Space Shuttle Commander, is now supporting the development of a groundbreaking new rocket engine technology. Melroy is one of only 2 women to have commanded a NASA space shuttle, and her extensive background includes decades of experience with the US Air Force, DARPA, the FAA, and private industry. Her new job is with Venus Aerospace, a Houston-based startup that made headlines on May 14th of this year when it successfully demonstrated the launch of a suborbital rocket powered by a rotating detonation rocket engine. Just a second, a what? What sets the RDRE apart from everyday rocket engines is the way fuel ignites inside the combustion chamber. In a conventional rocket engine like SpaceX's Raptor, fuel combustion is a continuous process. The flame front, where combustion takes place, moves uniformly through a propellant mixture, generating uninterrupted thrust. RDRE, a propulsion technology that existed only in theory for more than half a century, breaks this dogma altogether. In this engine design, detonation waves race around a circular channel, which produces short, high-pressure bursts that drive up thrust and efficiency. Instead of smooth combustion, RDREs operate on continuous controlled explosions, making them considerably more efficient than conventional rockets that use what is basically still 1960s and 70s technology. Venus Aerospace claims its RDRE technology offers a 15% increase in efficiency versus conventional rockets, enough to nearly quadruple payload capacity when compared to legacy engines. This would be nothing short of revolutionary. Even more distant goals are what Rocket Lab has set its sights on. The company has unveiled its Mars Telecommunications Orbiter, or MTO. It sets out to tackle a critical step toward establishing a human presence on Mars. We've gotten so used to thinking about SpaceX every time we hear Mars, but Rocket Lab is also poised to become a part of humanity's biggest leap yet. The company described its new satellite as a persistent, high-bandwidth communications bridge between Mars and Earth. It's designed to keep astronauts safe, connected, and mission-ready. MTO will operate as a high-bandwidth relay, providing robust links between Mars' surface assets and Earth. It's meant to become a true communication backbone, providing telecommunication services between the blue and the red planet. In this regard, it would support future human landings, sample return missions, and ongoing rover operations by ensuring improved and continuous communication capabilities. Rocket Lab emphasizes its approach with the motto "Talk first, land later." The company is convinced that communication infrastructure must be established before human missions arrive. And I second that. MTO is also the first step in Rocket Lab's commercial architecture for a next-generation, cost-effective Mars sample return campaign. MTO, a sample return lander, and an Earth return vehicle. The estimated cost of such a mission is under $4 billion. That might sound like a lot, but it actually isn't. Granted, it is not cheap, but with unique samples waiting on Mars potentially proving life outside Earth has existed, a sample return mission would be more valuable than ever. Back down on our home planet, ESA opened its doors to space enthusiasts. The European Space Operations Center, or ESOC, in Darmstadt, Germany, recently welcomed thousands of visitors during its highly anticipated Open Day. Families and space enthusiasts were treated to a close look at the main control room. Interactive demonstrations showed how engineers communicate with spacecraft millions of kilometers away, including the Mars Express orbiter and the JUICE mission currently journeying to Jupiter's moons. ESA's 50-year journey has been an exciting one. From early weather satellites to today's ambitious planetary exploration missions, the agency has consistently pushed technological boundaries. Highlights include the Rosetta mission's historic comet landing, the Gaia Observatory mapping our galaxy, and the upcoming Artemis Lunar Program partnership with NASA. Countless scientists and engineers explained all aspects of the complex daily operations of ESOC. The Open Day particularly captivated young visitors who participated in hands-on workshops building model rockets and programming robotic rovers. Hands-on events like this Open Day inspire future space explorers like nothing else. Who knows, maybe one day one of these kids will sit at the helm of a starship going to Mars and beyond. Inspiration is the start of every epic journey. That's it for today. Smash the like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. And if you want to learn more about how AI might be the first to put a footprint on Mars, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Between flights. Ahead of an engine. Yes. Existed only in theory. It's my typical signature. Yes.